Yep.
All right, so we had left it, Ali, Aki, sorry, where it was like you're given some real sound advice, learning to share, and you gave that analogy of the bottle, and sort of like learning to pour out your emotions so that that bottle doesn't get filled up, and so it ends up exploding, and allowing yourself to grieve, to cry, and it's amazing, very simple but very effective wisdom that you've shared there, my brother. So. Now, take us back to obviously you're in high school now, and these bullies are following you in high school. What's going on there then, Aki? What's going on there?
Yeah, thank you, my brother. It's by God's grace. And yeah, so what's going on is so now it's only one of them is in my school that followed me from primary school. The other isn't in my school, and then now I meet some new bullies in the school as well. So what's really going on? So first of all, I'll say even me going into that particular school, it wasn't really something I desired myself, right? Because I think from around year three, year four, I knew that I had a joy for football. And I started to realize that, oh, I'm actually quite good at this. I wanted to play football. That was my dream, right? So that was my goal. Whereas my parents' goal was education. You know, you
Of
must go to the
course.
best school, the best university, all of that stuff. So they were the ones who, and you could say enforced me to, do the 11 plus, get into the grammar school and whatnot. But eventually, when I did get in and I moved schools, I actually wanted to, initially take it seriously and study and whatnot. So in year five and six was my first times when I was, no, sorry, year six was my first times when I was really like, you could say, showing interest in girls, right? Though I've had attraction to them before, much before that, early on. We'll probably get to that in more detail later on. But that was the first time I was really like, yeah, actually actively engaging, in relationships like primary school relationships, though I didn't do anything physically with them, but yeah, I had those primary school boyfriend girlfriend relationships whatnot. So I broke up with my girlfriend at the time in year six because I knew we were going to secondary school. I wanted to take it seriously. And we were going to the same school but different because I went to an all boys school. She went to an all girls school. But it was the same school, but they're actually two different schools, if that makes sense. Because one is Dartford boys, one is Dartford girls. So they're two separate schools, but with the same, sort of name. So the reason why I give this context is to just share my mentality going into the secondary school. So I was just going into it to like kind of like start afresh, to take the education seriously, even though that wasn't initially what I wanted to do. But
Mhm.
I want to focus. I want to actually maybe excel and succeed, right? But literally in year seven, it's like trouble just comes straight away. Um, I so I actually had a friend who sat next to me because we're next to each other in the register in my form in year seven, who left within the first 3 days of starting year seven.
Wow.
So it's like I had to now, you can say, start again, finding new friends. But thankfully, I had a bit of experience because I've gone through so many changes. I went to five different primary schools growing up. So, you know, starting in a new environment wasn't isn't something new to me, what I'm saying? And so I guess I was able to also make new friends quickly, but then at the same time, I also had a thing of making enemies quite just as quick as well. So so I remember my first encounter. I know I had an isolation in year seven, right? And I was one of the first people to get isolation. I think maybe just to explain for those who don't know, isolation is what the name suggests. For example, when people are in prison and they're initially in the cells with other people, with other prisoners, but then they're now taken out and put in their own cell by themselves. So isolation is the same sort of principle where rather than it being like an after school detention where you just sit back in a room with other people in detention for an hour or so, it's like you're taken out of your classroom for the whole school day and you're sat in the teacher's office for the whole school day. You do your work there away from the rest of the kids. So I had my first isolation in the later half of year seven, I believe, and I was one of the first ones to go through that, or to get that. And what led to it, I can't remember the details. So I may not be able to speak on it accurately, but I think what I do remember was there was a kid who said something to me, and I can't remember what was said, but we got angry. Then I think he mentioned something about my dad or something like that. And or is it that he mentioned something about my dad? Or me, I got angry and I threatened him like I'll hurt, my dad will hurt you, this and that, because I knew again with that mentality I couldn't physically do much to him and stuff like that. And because I've seen kids in primary school who would get angry, throw tantrums, they get taken out of the class, but it's like they're given special treatment. It's like I kind of try to also see if I can, do that in this new school, you know what I'm saying? So I think I might have thrown some chairs down off the table or something like that. And then I was given isolation. Is it, I can't remember how long it was for now, maybe a day or so. So yeah. And so I've had also, throughout, secondary school, people who were supposedly friends would also bully me. So these most of the kids that did bully me were kids who are also African, who are also Nigerian, like I said, who had a similar background to me, though they didn't grow up in Nigeria, they were born here. But again, they would mock me because of my accent, because I was also dark skinned as well. So you had the skin war going on as well, dark skins versus light skins. And some of these guys were also dark skinned too, but it's, that joke of, oh, you're so dark, I can't see you in your Dark Knight, because I think that's around the time where Batman was popular, so Dark Knight Rises. But it got to the point where I also joined in with them and did it back to them too as well, because I felt like that's the only way you could say, defend myself or, protect myself, you know what I'm saying? So I also joined in with them. So I was no better. So I'm not saying this to say that they did it, it was all them and I didn't have any part to play, but I also did it too. But that was it. And then now one of the kids who was in my first primary school in this country, or second primary school in this country, the Church of England school. So he was actually of Asian descent or origin, right? And he would also join in with the bullying in primary school, about my name and stuff like that. So now we're in the same secondary school, but it's as if the roles have now reversed, right? Because it's now I've grown a lot, wiser or more intelligent, a lot more stronger physically and athletically and stuff like that, and I had a lot more confidence. It's like he tried to bully me again, thinking it would, that would continue, that pattern would continue. But I realized that no, do you know what? I'm not gonna have that anymore. And so I now started, insulting him and calling him all sorts of names, making fun of his name the same way he was making fun of mine, so that he will learn that he can't continue that way anymore. It got to the point where he actually, he say submitted and stopped, bullying me since then. And he actually wanted to be my friend after that, because I
Wow.
ended up being one of, like, you could say, the popular kids, because I made friends quite easily, so some of the other, kids, and I was quite athletic as well. So I was, known for my athleticism and stuff like that. So, it's like he now also now wanted to be my friend as a result of that sort of stuff. So the roles kind of reversed, which was quite interesting. So being good at athletics actually, did good for me because in year seven we had our first, like race, and we so I won. So I was deemed the fastest in the year group, but I wasn't able to continue the athletic season because I broke my leg.
Oh,
Yeah,
wow.
so I've broken my leg twice, the same leg, of my knee, specifically twice. So that first time was in year seven in athletics. It
How
was
did you
me.
do that? How did you break it?
It was me being unwise. I was being very foolish. So we're doing high jump. It was athletics training in the evening. So we're doing high jump now. And other people, so we had the person supervising us, the teacher supervising us. And I was, so when the person was supervising us, we all did it properly. But as soon as that person left for a brief moment, all the other kids were doing front flips over the high jump bar. But I wanted to join in. But I had that fear that I'm going to be the unfortunate one that gets caught, because everyone has done it now. And I'm watching it to see if the guy comes back. I'm thinking I'm going to be the one that gets caught. Because I was one of those kids, because of how strict my dad was, right? It put a lot of fear in me to do things that were wrong. But at the same time, because I had that rebellious, you could say, nature and that sinful nature, I also was quite rebellious. So I tried to be as wise about it in the sense of I would try to do things that are wrong without getting caught. You know what I'm saying? Right? So word doesn't get back to my dad and I get in trouble and things like that. So, but eventually I thought, okay, no, I really want to do it. I saw the supervisor coming back or the teacher coming back. So I tried to quickly do it. And in doing it, I put so much force in my jump that the bottom of my kneecap chipped away. It's called a patella. It chipped away from the top of my kneecap. So it felt like I smashed my knee against a corner of like a table. That's how it felt in the moment. So I flipped over, I landed on the mat, and I tried to get up, and I realized, wait, hold on, why can't I stand up? I'm in quite a lot of pain, not so much to the point where I want to cry, but it was like I was trying to get up. I was like, I can't bend this knee. So my friends came and tried to pick me up, and I tried to walk on the leg and move it. I couldn't. Long story short, I eventually, my mum eventually had to come in with a family friend, and they drove me to the hospital, and then I was put in a cast and whatnot. And then I ended up breaking my leg again a couple years later. Um, so I'll just quickly share. So after being in the cast, I wasn't able to go to school for some time, so because I was on crutches and it would have been too difficult being transported. So I did a lot of work at home and stuff like that. But then I eventually recovered. Went back to school. I think before the year ended. Though, yeah, before the year ended, went through year eight, then year nine. So year eight, so yeah, all of year seven, I played rugby before breaking my leg, and because that was rugby season is like in the winter months. Then athletic season is when I started, but then I broke my leg athletic season. So year eight now comes, rugby season comes back. I wasn't able to join immediately, but like near the end of the rugby season, I kind of like started to join in again, though it wasn't the same anymore. And then athletic season came, I joined in, but I wasn't as fast as I was before, but I was still, one of the fastest. But then year nine comes, beginning of year nine, rugby season again, and I break my leg the second time. This time was in a rugby match. We're in the semi-final of the Kent Cup, I believe. And it was 5 minutes before the end of the game, right? And literally, so if we only waited 5 minutes, maybe by God's grace, I wouldn't have broken it the second time. But 5 minutes before the end of the game, the ball was kicked, and I was like, I turned and was trying to chase it backwards. And then in chasing it, I just fell to the ground because my knee gave way and it shattered in three different places.
The
To
same
the
knee.
point, the same knee. Yeah. So the doctor suspected that maybe after the first break, the knee was still a bit weak and stuff like that because there was no physical contact. I just fell, you know, and yeah, so shattered in three places. It was a cold night as well, a cold day that day. And so I was waiting for the ambulance, that one was actually very painful. I wanted to cry, but I couldn't because yes, you know how I just shared, the analogy of, pouring out feelings and emotions and whatnot. When I was young, I cried a lot because I got beaten a lot. And I also was very sensitive as well, right? Because I really wanted love, but I felt like I didn't really get it as well. So little things like, let's say, for example, my dad not saying happy birthday to me or not giving me a birthday card, I'll start crying as a result of that. I was quite sensitive and whatnot. So it got to a point where I cried so much where I felt like I had no more tears left in me. You know what I'm saying? The only other times I cried was probably when I got beaten. And so then I also didn't like that vulnerable feeling also. And I didn't have someone to share the wisdom, with me at the time of, how to share your emotions properly. So I now start to put on a tough shell, you know what I'm saying? And since then, I never really cried, So I had a struggle really pouring out my emotions and, doing it properly. So I built it up inside. So the reason why I give this context is also because in this point, I'm going through so much physical pain to the point that I want to cry but I actually physically can't now, because that's how much I've hardened my heart, you know what I'm saying? Because I don't want to get hurt, especially emotionally. Because emotional pain has a different way of hurting one than physical pain. That's why words can be so powerful, can be so destructive, but it can also be used to build people up. So yeah, so I wasn't able to cry, was taken to the hospital, put in another cast again, and yeah, so I was injured. So I was out of school again for another period of time. There was a few school trips I ended up missing as a result as well, which I'd have loved to go on, and stuff like that. I missed also a rugby tour as well, and yeah, so it was quite
What position were you playing? Rugby winger.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I
Because
was
you're
a
quite fast then, isn't it? Yeah.
yeah, 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 yeah. Winger sometimes maybe like a fullback, but yeah, yeah. So mostly winger. Yeah, because my school was a rugby school. We didn't do football at the time, and yeah. So that was, and I also had a dream of playing football, right? So a lot was going on football wise too. Because if I go back to year seven, I wanted to join a football team, but because I broke my leg, I couldn't, right? And but year eight, when I was fine again, I had a trial for a football club, but and they wanted to sign me that day, or
What club? What club was that?
it's called Crayford Arrows. It wasn't a professional club. It was like just a grassroots team. And they wanted to sign me because I scored like a two or three goals that day or whatever. I played very well. But I think I did something at school. I got in trouble. My dad didn't let me continue. with that. So that built even further resentment towards my dad as a result, because now I feel see him as an enemy, like he's trying to prevent me from doing what I want to do. So that resentment grows even more. So my relationship with my dad does get worse as time goes on. And yeah, so literally I wasn't able to start football until the year after year nine, because I broke my leg in year seven and year nine. So year 10, when I'm back again, is when I started football. I had a close friend with me who lived near me as well. He was the one who got me into football. And yeah, so then I got started playing football again in year 10. But my leg, though it was healed, were two different sizes and it wasn't the same. I couldn't run the same anymore. I was still fast and whatnot, but it just wasn't the same anymore. And I'd also like shy away from tackles. Even till this day, I don't go full on into tackles. So I've adapted my game as a result of that.
I
But
take it you're still playing rugby then.
no, not rugby, but football.
Ah,
Football. I stopped playing rugby year nine, so I just continued with football in year 10. So that was my journey with football. So when I now started playing for a football team in year 10, I saw myself like, yes, this is my child. I can still make it professionally, and now I started to take football more seriously than education, right? And yeah, and this was now around the point where I'm now starting to prepare for GCSEs. And so yeah, so now I'm not really interested in education anymore. I don't want to do it serious. I would just want to play football. Then year 11 comes, which is the GCSE year. But I had a trial for a professional club. It's called Yeovil Town. Well, at the time they were League Two. Now I think they're in the National League. But yeah, so at the time they were League Two, I had a trial for them. Me and that same friend who introduced me to football went to that trial. On the day, we both performed very well. And they told us on the day. So one of the scouts who scouted Nicholas and Anelka told us, like, you guys played very well. Usually we don't tell people on the day that we want them back because it's like an open trial. And that's what they told us. But we're still yet to receive an email to confirm our place for the second trial. And so my friend got an email and that he got in. Also, I got an email that I didn't get in. So that broke me, right? I was frustrated and because I thought I had my hopes up. I thought I was made it, I was gonna make it in. Because I've now, thrown away my education because my all my eggs is like in that football basket. Like, yes, I'm gonna be a pro. Forget education. I don't care anymore. So finding that out was, I think I found out after GCSEs. So even though I had a tutor who was helping with my GCSEs, I didn't really revise properly or much. I didn't take it seriously. So that crushed me in a way, and I didn't bother chasing it up. So I had to quickly now find a football club last minute, and I ended up, not staying in my secondary school for sixth form because though I didn't get the grades I desired, know that my parents would have wanted me to get, but I still got good enough grades that I could have actually continued in the school. I didn't meet their entry requirements, but because I was already in the school, they were willing to accept me. But I didn't want to do education anymore, so I left and to pursue football. So I went to a semi-professional academy. So that's where I did my college years. But before I go continue in that, just again to just give further context on like the whole bullying things, I don't think I really finished that. My attitude in secondary school now was again continuing on with the fact that I don't want to share my emotions or I don't want to feel emotions because I don't want to be vulnerable, even not even in front of others, but even when I'm alone. I didn't like that vulnerable feeling, because I felt weak, I felt helpless, I felt like no one would come to my aid. So it was really hard. So what I would do now is like I'll put up this front of being stronger than I really am. You know what I'm saying? It's like people can't mess with me. So I would, so that's why I was able to, you could say bully back that person that bullied me back in primary school. That's why I was able to, there was also another period where I think it was in year 10 now, one kid accidentally, you know, um, pushed me when I was like trying to do my laces or something like that. It wasn't intentional, but because I wanted to prove a point. I was angry, and he was one of the kids that would also bully me at times as well. But we'll call it banter. We get each other back. So I just swung at him and punched him, right? Just to prove a point, like don't mess with me. I'm not that kind of guy. So I tried to prove this show, and it's like I was never the type to fight though. At the same time, so I've had instances or physical altercations with kids. Maybe they'll punch me once, or I'll push them or stuff like that. I was never really the type to fight because I always remembered what my dad taught me. But at the same time, it's like I didn't like this continuing on with kids, with other kids. So I would either bully them back, say words to them back, or put up this front that, hey, I'm this tough guy, don't mess with me, sort of thing. So that's also how I continued throughout secondary school. And to also bring it back with the other kid who bullied me in the first primary school in the Church of England primary school, and followed me to the second primary school, which was my last primary school before secondary school. Though we went to different secondary schools, we met each other at athletics competitions. So in year eight, I think we met each other at the first athletics competition. So there was that bit of rivalry. And he was like, "Oh yeah, I'm faster than you. I'm gonna beat you." Obviously, my school won. We beat him in a race. And yeah, so I was able to like kind of trump him as well. So it's like the tide has now turned, you know. I was the victim before being bullied by people, but now I'm like now the aggressor. But not in the sense of I want to be aggressive towards people and I want to just be mean towards people because I actually liked people. I wanted to be friends with people, but for me, I saw it as a defense mechanism, as in like attack was the best form of defense for me in that sense. I have to put up this front because at least if I put up this front and people don't mess with me, then I don't have to worry about, being bullied and stuff like that. And it works to some degree. So that was kind of also my mentality going throughout secondary school. But then when I went to now this football college, things somewhat changed, right? Because the environment is slightly different. There's
Mm.
not as many kids anymore. Now it's like just one classroom with a few of us, so it's a more intimate setting. So I didn't really need to put up this front anymore. But now because it's a new environment, even though I've changed environments quite a few times, right? Like changed schools quite a few times, so I'm used to meeting new people. For some reason, going into this environment was tough for me, because I was now very shy to myself. So though I could be confident when I'm comfortable around people, when I didn't really know people well, I also had this tendency of being shy, you know, because of this fear of people not accepting me, because of how my dad treated me. What I'm saying? I felt like I had to earn my dad's love. I felt like I had to work for his love. You can say that because he had a high standard that he wanted me to meet. And it's like, if I don't meet those standards, it's like I get harshly treated or disciplined. Sometimes it felt unprovoked or it felt over the board. What I'm saying? Like, for example, one time I can remember was when like my dad would try and tutor me with my maths homework, right? And this was probably like in primary school still. And maybe I'll get a question wrong, right? And he will knock me on the head. And I'm just thinking, bro, that was like uncalled for. I'm a kid. Like, how do you expect me to get... Sometimes it could even be a question that I do know the answer to and I could get right, but because I have that fear of getting it wrong, and being hit, I then end up still getting it wrong, and I still get hit. So I now start to have a lot of fear too, and that fear also translated into relationships with people. I had that fear of, being rejected, of not being accepted by people. Do you know what I'm saying? So even when I went to new environments and let's say outside of the ones I'm already comfortable in, I'd be that kid. I'll sit in the corner, not because I wanted to be antisocial, but it's just I just had that fear of, I tried to make friends and then they reject me. So I wouldn't even bother attempting. I'd rather people come to me first. And that also continued throughout, my adulthood as well. I don't usually approach people first. I wait till they come to me first. Obviously now
Mm.
by the grace of God, I don't have that, fear anymore. But it did leave a lasting impact on me for some time. And so growing into this, college environment, I ended up like secluding myself in it to some sense, even though I was probably one of the better players in the club. I think that's one of the things that also helped me out because I was very good athletically. It gave me some sort of like recognition or you can say fame to a smaller degree, and people will still like me and want to be my friend. So that helped me out.
Yeah.
If I didn't have that, I would have found it very difficult. Do you get what I'm saying? So it's like I had this, I could make friends easily because of my achievements and accomplishments. But if that wasn't there, I'll find it very difficult and I'll seclude myself. So when people don't come to me, I don't go to them. I stay on my own. But also academically, I was quite intelligent too. So in that college environment, because I kind of like went down a level academically, because I could have done IB at my secondary school for sixth form, but I chose to do BTech instead. So I even skipped A levels. I went straight to BTech. So I found that very easy. Because we did BTech sport. So it was so easy to the point where even my tutor at the time was like, "You're so good, you could even do you want to teach the class sort of thing?" And that's not even to boast, but that's just the reality of what actually happened, right? So that also kind of helps me to some degree too, but I still struggled, with acceptance and just, meeting people. And that continued, because I may be good at something now, but then I'm scared to showcase it just in case maybe I make a mistake and then people reject me as a result.
Yeah.
So I was always scared of making mistakes. I became like a perfectionist. I always want to do things perfectly and right all the time because if I get it wrong, I remember like that trauma of like, being hit, being hurt. So it was really hard. It's a lot to go through as from a kid to a teenager to a young adult. It's so much, and I didn't handle it the best way possible because it also led me to other things which we'll get into, I guess, as well at some point. So I ended up going off the rails. So yeah, it was really a lot.
So
Um,
when you say off the rails, what does that look like?
I became the prodigal son. I became the son who asked for his inheritance early, to go and blow it, before realizing, hey, there's actually no joy in this. You know what I'm saying? There's no satisfaction or fulfillment in this, and I want to go back. And what does that mean? So after that college period, was it? Yeah, after that college period, just a bit after, I think just after I finished, I now went into like going to parties, sleeping around with women, getting involved in indulging in, drugs and stuff like that. Things that I needed not to, and I wouldn't have done in my previous life. But there's also something that led me to that point as well. Because around that period, I was also seeking God, right? Because I'll have to probably go back a bit to make this part make sense. So growing up in that Christian environment, right? My parents made me go to church when I was young. I'll go to Sunday school. So I had a knowledge of God. You would hear Bible stories, you read Bible stories and stuff like that. And so I knew about some of the Bible characters, I knew about the Ten Commandments and things like that. But I didn't really understand what Christianity was. I saw it as just following rules. And I saw God as my dad, someone I need to earn his love. I need to please him by doing good things. Do you kind of get what I'm saying? So that's how I saw Christianity. But I realized quickly that every time I tried to do good, I'm not doing good. I'm doing bad. You know what I'm saying? You can say kind of like the Romans 7 when Paul says, the good I try to do, I don't do, but the bad I don't want to do, I end up doing sort of thing. So I found myself doing that very quickly as well. And I realized that I can't do this. I was not thinking like, God, how do you expect us to meet this standard? Because it's impossible. Is there any human being that's met this standard? And because I didn't do much Bible reading on my own as I was growing up as well, so I didn't gain that understanding on my own. But then I'll now look around with all the other kids around my age or a bit older, because I also had that, tendency to hang around with people older than me. You know, I've always been that kid because I was quite mature for my age. Because I was independent and I learned to be mature quite quickly because of the intense environment I've been in. I would always be around older kids, maybe a year, 2 years older than me. And I'll look at them, I was like, and sometimes in church they're even talking about the girls that they're talking to and things like that, what they're doing with girls and all of this stuff. And I'll be thinking like, hey, are we all supposed to be Christian here? Are we all supposed to be trying to meet this particular standard? But so I'll see that hypocritical sort of nature. And I think eventually I started to get to the point where it's like, do you know what, God, your standard is actually impossible. I can't meet it. I've tried, I can't do it. And I see other people do whatever they like, right? So I might as well, join in with them. So that's kind of like how I kind of went into that kind of path. And as Paul quoted as well, bad company corrupts good character. So in this whole challenging environment with my dad and trying to seek love outside, I ended up mixing with, you can say, the wrong crowds who introduced me to all sorts of different things. So like I was first introduced to like full-on pornography at the age of 11 when I was in year six by a kid who was 2 years older than me. He was a family friend actually. And yeah, so then that as I the story of that was is actually quite interesting as well because his brother and my brother went to the and well he had two younger siblings. I had two younger siblings. They all went to the same primary school, right? And his brother and my brother, because he had a brother and a sister, his brother and my middle brother were in the same year group. So they had a fun fair at their school, which was close to our house at the time. And he came over, to No, yeah. So he came over to look for me because he had asked my mum where I was because I was getting ready to go and meet them, and so my mum said I was in the house, so she let him come over to meet me in the house. So whilst we are there now, I was getting ready, and then he asked me, "Oh, can I go on your computer?" And I was like, "What for, bro?" And he's like, "Don't worry, da da da." And so he eventually convinced me anyway. So I typed in the password for him to go on the computer whilst I was still getting ready. And I come back down and I see him watching porn and he's, masturbating right in front of me. And I was like, whoa, like what's going on here? This is wow, this is crazy. So on one side, I'm curious and I want to find out what's going on. But on the other side, it's like, I know this is wrong. I shouldn't do it. And on top of that as well, we don't have much time. We need to go. So I'm now fighting this internally. But I eventually gave in to curiosity and I went to see what he was looking at. And then now that image is now imprinted into my mind. But I said to myself, no, I'm not going to go back and search it later on because I know it's going to probably be addictive and I don't want to get into that. But I get home now later on in the evening. It's late, I think even though me and my brother shared a room at the time, I think he was probably still downstairs and whatnot. So I quickly went into my room, closed the door, I locked the door behind, and because it became a pattern now, whenever let's say I was doing that, I locked the door behind. If someone tried to come in, I would lie and say I'm getting changed. You know what I'm saying? So that was my you could say excuse or alibi, or lie. And so yeah, I tried to search and find this video couldn't find it, but I found whatever I settled with, and then that was my first, you know, full-on introduction into masturbation, and I was addicted to pornography for 15 years until God set me free by His grace. Which again we'll go further into more detail as to how, because even after coming to Christ, I still struggled with watching porn as well. Because it was an addiction that I've had for many years, and I can go into the root of it as well, which I discovered later on. But so that kind of like introduced me to that realm of things. And so now around that age range, because I was in year six at the time, that's when I was now started to have my first girlfriends and things like that as well in school. Though we didn't do anything, sexually, but I was tempted now because now I've watched porn, I've done it, and it's like this is not enough. I want to do the real thing. But now I'm scared to do the real thing because what if, my parents find out or, she snitches on me and or if I don't perform well enough, and things like that. Or, so those thoughts will go into my mind, which kind of like stopped me from going further and actually trying it out, But the thought was still in my mind. And I also had girlfriends, throughout secondary school, even though year seven I broke up with one to focus on school. By year eight, I had another one, and then I had another one in year nine as well. Whom I believed I loved at the time, and I saw myself marrying her. But her and I broke up, and it took me years to get over her. Actually, it took me like about 3 or so years to get over her. But again, didn't do anything sexually with any girls. Didn't even kiss a girl until when I was around 19. And this is where I was trying to get to. What led me to that point was resentment towards God again, but in a different way. What happened was I was obviously going to church when I was younger because my parents, kind of like forced me to go to church. But then when I started playing football at the age of 15 in year 10, because football was on Sundays, I stopped going to church. And but then my mum would encourage me to, okay, if I'm not going to go to her church, I should still find another church at a service that I could go to. So I didn't start doing that until like maybe college time when I was 17, 18. So but then I felt like again, there's so many because I was going to a youth church, or so many, it was quite a big church. So many youths. I would just go in and leave. Didn't really know anyone, didn't really make much friends or anything like that. I was again that shy, and not confident enough to approach people because of that fear of rejection. So I never really felt like I fit in. I never really understood the whole Christianity thing. I didn't really get it, and I was just used to like kind of like just not feeling like I fit in churches because in my mom's church, I had friends there that were close or whatnot. But as soon as a lot of them started to leave, and then when they started to leave, I think that's when I also left eventually because of football. And then all the other churches I went to, I didn't kind of like, or this other church I went to, I didn't feel like I fit in. So then I was just praying to God, it's like, God, okay, help me to find the right church where I do fit in and da da da. And then some people approached me after getting a haircut and they evangelized to me and invited me to their church. And I was thinking, okay, God, maybe this is a sign because I've been praying for you to lead me to the right church or whatnot. And so I went to their church now. And when I went there, it was because I'm now 19, I'm a bit older. When I went there, I found it quite different to what I was used to, right? Because I was used to the African sort of churches, but now this church I see there's different ethnicities there. Do you know what I'm saying? Is you can say it's still sort of predominantly African, but not African in that sense. There's more pe Africans who have been acclimatized to the British way of doing things and whatnot, and so there was other people of different ethnicities there. So that was a shock to me, first of all. But second of all, people were so extra nice as well. And I felt weird to me. Felt like, you know, um, I didn't really watch horror movies much, but kind of like when a character will go to an environment and people are extra nice, not with good intent, but with bad intent. That's how it felt in this sort of church. Um, but I guess, long story short, I discovered that this church is a cult and is one of the biggest cults in the UK and worldwide as well. It's attached. There's two of them, but yeah,
I'm going to pause you there because this is now you're getting into some other different real
yeah,
intense stuff here. So let's
yeah,
pause there and we're going to get into part three because part three then we're going to talk about this cult now. Yeah.
yeah. Cool,
So
cool.
wow, okay. This is it's
Thanks. Yeah,
almost like there's levels to this intensity. It's crazy.
yeah, yeah,
It's
yeah.
absolutely crazy, bro. Okay, right. We're gonna pause there then and then we're gonna get into part three, okay?
Sure, sure. That's all right.